we're live a little earlier than I expected. But hey, we're gonna do some talking today about African violets. Yep, I brought some show and tell, and some ones that need some help, some ones that are going good, and some ones that just can't stop blooming. So we're gonna do a little work here. We're going to talk a little bit about them, a little bit about their care, a little bit about where you can put them, and then we're going to do some propagation. So I've done a little work in the greenhouse, kind of tidied things up, because we are definitely heading into when we're going to start doing our seed. So we've got a bunch of seed that we need to plant. So just trying to hope to catch a bunch of people. Probably going to do about a half-hour live or so. But yeah, we'll get into it here in a moment. And we'll start working with our African violets. And I know that's a completely different channel than, or a different take of where we go from here. So let's see if we can do some fun things here. Ooh, start a poll. Let's do that. Ask a question. All right. Let's see if we can do that there. Oh, hey, we've got a poll running, which is not something I've done before. All right, there we go. We've got a poll there, so we'll get that going. All right. Yeah. So we're going to keep going, and we're going to start working on some African violets. So I'm going to kind of turn you towards the table here. And I'm going to show you some of the ones we have, how they're going, and basically what we're going to do. And we're going to do something different today. So I'm probably going to take this live and do a little bit of a clip off of it. But we're going to take some trash and we're going to propagate some plants with it. So we're just heading out of the holiday season. And a lot of you got stuff and you got things that came in, like these plastic clamshells. So we're going to use one of these. This had some parts from the heater that I was working on, so that's there. But we're going to use that. And then, if you're like me, if you're a Gen Xer and you've been to Costco, you probably have one of these laying around. And we're going to use this as our humidity dome. So we're going to start doing that. Okay, so we're going to try to get this to work. And we're going to use some of our leftover random stuff that we have here in the greenhouse to try to propagate some African violets. So we're going to see how that goes. So yeah, we're going to use trash in our greenhouse to grow plants. So let's see how that goes. All right. Oh, let's see. All right. Let's see if I can get that. Drag here to end poll. I can't see everybody. Hello, hi. Welcome for joining. All right. So yeah, we're going to do some reusing and some recycling to grow African violets. So if you're just joining the chat, you didn't see that we're going to work with African violets today, which is going to be one of those plants that's probably going to be about the easiest if you have in your house to grow them. You know, these things take a lot of beatings. They take a lot of neglect. And African violets, there's a lot of ways that we can grow them. The simplest way is just to get a container. You know, you're going to go to just about any garden center and they're going to have African violets sitting there. This is one of those eternal plants that like lasts forever. So their crown is right down here and it sits on top of the roots, and that crown, or that compact stem, as the new leaves are formed, it grows longer and longer and longer. And those can get really, really, really long, right? So with these, they call this kind of like the plant that never dies. Because once it starts growing, it keeps going forever. So yeah, we're gonna work on this, and I recommend you getting them. And they're gonna come in small pots, generally in small pots. This is missing the other part, but this is a self-watering African violet pot, so it sits in a container of water, and then the water goes through the side. But to kind of show you how bulletproof they are, this is one that's been kind of neglected. He's got just a scrawny amount of soil, and you can see his crown there is really long, and just sits in a windowsill. So yeah, We water them every time when we remember. So anyway, hey, let's get to some propagating. Let's get to some propagating here. Now, I have a couple other things. I showed you the clamshells that we're going to use, but we're also going to use kind of a more of a commercial setup, or more of a propagation setup. So this one I've already filled with some Sunshine Mix number 4, which is a potting soil that I always recommend. So that is in here. And then in here, there's a little container for our water. So the water goes in there, and there's a little level gauge so we can see how much water is in there. So this will sit in there full of water, and then the water will wick up from the bottom and keep our little cuttings nice and moist. All right. So with African violets, let's kind of talk about how we're going to do that propagation. So with this, I showed you that there's a crown. Okay. So that is, let's get some of those older dead leaves out of the way so you can kind of see there's this long stem right in through here. Okay. So with that being just a single stem and there's no branches, how in the world are we going to propagate it? How are we going to get more African violets if we can't take a cutting? Now, you can actually do seed, so you can pollinate those. And this is one of the hybrids that we created here. So it's a pink and white with a ruffled blossom. So it is actually a cross between this pink and a white one that I have. So you can do seed, but what we're going to do instead is we're going to take a cutting, but it's not going to be a stem cutting. It's not going to be a branch cutting. We're actually going to take cuttings of the leaves. So we're going to use individual leaves to propagate. Okay, so we're going to cut these leaves off. We're going to put them in moist soil, dampened soil with just a little bit of water. It's not sopping wet. It's just got moisture to it. And then we're going to leave these here for anywhere from about 4 to 6 weeks to a month or two. So it's going to depend on heat and light and water for those leaves to start taking root. Okay, so let's get this back in its little lonely pot, and we will pot him up in a bigger container later. We'll get you down here so you can see where we're going to work. And there you go. I think you can kind of see. Yeah, you got some work area there. Okay, and we're going to take some of these cuttings. I'm going to move this guy out of the way. And I'm going to show you how to take some of these leaf cuttings. So one of the things you want to do is you want a good, healthy leaf, right, when you're selecting a leaf. So, we've got some older leaves here. So these are big, stout, older leaves. And there's a lot of temptation to just grab one of these leaves here for our propagation. But we actually want to grab one that's younger, that's got some nice deep color, that's actively growing. Because we want our strongest plant material growing our seedling or our cutting. And we can take a couple of these. We can do that, but we're going to grab a couple of those. Now, these are Mrs. Ag Teacher Thoughts African violets. So I was told I have to be nice to them. So I can't take dozens and dozens and dozens of cuttings. I can only take a couple of them. So let's take a couple. And we're going to start off first with our propagation chamber that is actually specifically designed. It'll probably help if oh, there's a watering hole there. See? I guess that's where you're supposed to put the water for down below. And I got soil down there. We'll get that out. Because we only have one chance to get it right. There we go. So we're going to start with this one that is specifically designed for taking cuttings. We're going to go in, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this from the pot. Okay. I'm going to get some of the older dead leaves out of the way. And we're going to come in where you can see the bottoms of these African violets. And we're going to come in and just using a paring knife, we're going to just cut them off. Right? We can let them just drop down on the ground or on our container. And I'm going to take a couple of these. And this is a really sharp paring knife. And a sharp knife is very, very important. So we've got 2 old leaves. Okay, so I want to take a couple of younger leaves. So I'm going to get in here. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to select out a younger leaf. I've got to set this down. Got to have 2 hands for this. Okay, there's a younger leaf. We're going to take one more so Mrs. Ag Teacher Thoughts doesn't complain I took all the leaves off of her plant. Okay, so we've got 4 of this one. All right, so we're going to use this commercial one to set this up. So this special propagation unit here, and I'm going to take a little bit of soil. We're just going to put it off to the side. kind of lower this level a little bit here. Okay. All right. So we'll work with our older leaves first. We're going to do it in two different ways. So we're going to do a straight across cut. So I'm making a nice fresh cut. Okay. Nice and fresh. Okay, straight across. So we're going to do it two different methods, and I'm going to set this kind of in here but off to the side. Now I'm not burying it all the way up to the bottom of the leaf. I'm doing that just so it's slightly out of the soil. And then the next one, I'm going to do like a 45 cut across here. Okay, so I'm going to add more surface area there for that plant to absorb water. All right, so there's our two old leaves. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with our younger leaves. So we're going to do a straight across cut for one of them. We're going to lay this in here. Get that down in the soil. Get that up. And then we're going to do a 45 on this one. Oops. Come on. Oh, there's another nick. We need to go below the nick. Okay. And we're going to lay that in like that. All right. So there is using just a regular propagation unit. And you can find these in garden centers. I don't have a specific link to them, or you can kind of find these online. This one was actually given to me. So rather than someone throwing this away, they gave it to me to reuse for my channel and for propagation. So in a way, this is also reusing what you would commonly throw away. So there is a couple of them there. All right. So let's do a few more. I'm going to put this one back where it goes so I don't accidentally take more cuttings than Mrs. Ag Teacher Thoughts wants me to. And we're going to take a couple of cuttings of the hybrid that we have. Okay, so we're going to do that same thing. So I'm going to do this leaf, this leaf over here. One of those, and we'll do a nice long one. Okay, so we did the straight across cutting, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to bring that in just a little bit. Make sure that that straight across one is on our straight across side, and I'm not going to overlap them with the other leaves there. We're going to leave those off to the side. We're going to come in and find another nice strong leaf. We'll grab this one here. We're going to do that one at a 45. Okay, so there's that. Come on. All right. Go. Put that one in there. Come on. There we go. All right. So we've got a couple of them in there. So that is in our purchasable rooting device. So we're going to put them there. Now I told you we were going to use some garbage, right? We're going to use some stuff that we're not normally going to use, something that's a little bit different. So let me get one of the clamshells, and this is one of those clear containers. So we're going to reuse this. This had the some tools that I purchased were in here, and these are designed to be like a safety or a security thing. So they secure the part so that you can't take it away. But we're gonna go ahead and reuse this. So you can see that it's kind of dish shaped, and we're gonna take this potting media over here that we had. We're gonna go ahead and just place it in the bottom. Place a little bit of that in the bottom because we don't need a whole lot. And this will give us a chance to reuse some of that. See if I got my extra container down here. There we go. There we go. That's probably enough potting media. Okay. There we go. So we've got that there, and this is going to hold our humidity in. And then we're going to take a couple more cuttings. So I want to make sure that I'm not taking too many from each plant. Okay. So there's going to be our straight across. That's a nice straight cut. We're going to stick that down in our clamshell. Okay, there's that one. I'm going to come in and I'm get one of our purple ones over here. We're going to cut that one. It actually came off right at a nice 45. You can kind of see that 45. So that's going to go in here too. All right. Let's see if we can find another one. Let's go another one of these ruffly ones over here. Let's grab an older leaf, and we're going to put that in there too. Cut that one into 45. We'll cut another one in here. Let's take this leaf down here at a 90. Make sure that's a 90. We're going to see which ones do better, whether it's a 90 or a 45. Okay, get that out of the way. All right. So there we go. There is a couple of different ways for us to do that. So we're going to take these and we're going to use these for our chamber. So we're going to add some water in here, and then we're going to get that all sealed up, and I can clip this closed, and that's going to hold my moisture in there, and it's going to make sure that these plant leaves don't actually dry out. So you're saying, oh yeah, that's perfect, they're not going to dry out. Well, how are we going to get this one to do the same? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to cover this with some saran wrap. So just some plastic wrap's going to go over the top of it when we're done taking our cuttings. And then that way, that's going to hold in that moisture, and then we have the moisture that's going to wick up from the reservoir down below, and we'll be able to see that on this level here. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my water out here, so I don't think I have any. Well, actually, yeah, I do. I do have my water. So this is not the watering can I want, though. Let me grab that. All right. So we're going to do this two ways. First is we're going to fill this reservoir, this one down here. So we're going to fill that one first, and then we're going to put this back in it, but we're also going to sprinkle a little bit of water on top. Okay, it's just a little beyond the window there. All right, set this in here. Feel it float a little bit. And then we're going to do a gentle watering over the top to moisten that soil. And that peat moss in that soil will absorb a lot of that moisture, and then it's going to keep those leaves from drying out. And then we're going to have a whole new batch of African violets. Okay. All right, so we're going to add some to our clamshells. We're going to open that one up. We're going to be kind of light on this one because this is not, it's not got a very large space down below, and there's no reservoir. So we do have to be very careful that we don't inadvertently make it too swampy, because if we do make it too swampy, then we're liable to have mold set in, and then we won't get our African violets to grow. Okay. All right. Get those leaves repositioned that it moved when we watered them. Just kind of tucking them in there. Okay, I'll go ahead and close this up. And then I have thought you didn't want African violet leaves wet. You kind of need them to be a little bit while you are propagating them, so we have to maintain that moisture. With that, it's one of those things that you don't want to wet them here, but you know, you don't want to keep them wet over a long period of time. But to propagate them, you need to hold that moisture in. So those of you who don't see it in the chat, that's the question about getting African violet leaves wet. The other thing to consider about is the plant. Plants grow outside, plants get rained on. So they are going to get water on their leaves in their natural environment from time to time. So it's okay for them to have periods of time where their leaves are wet. We just don't want to keep them wet over a long period of time. But we do need to keep the soil and, you know, the other thing is I've got them elevated so they're not actually just pretty much the stems in contact. And I kind of did that with these two. So I angled them up. But yeah, we do need to water them and keep the soil moist so that leaf can start taking in the moisture. And then we need some brighter but not super bright light. So out here in the greenhouse, I do have all of my grow lights on right now, and that's pretty intense on the plants right now. So I've got a modern effect of bright lights. This is actually anthocyanin, so this is like plant sunblock which is what these are going. It's kind of a side effect of LED lighting. So my lights that I have right now up top are pretty bright, but I'm actually going to grow these down underneath my benches where that's actually a filtered sunlight. So they're gonna get bright indirect light, and we do need to have a little bit of moisture there to make sure that they keep going. So we're going to take these and we're going to put those off to the side, and then we're going to do one more style for propagating using the other system over here. So let me grab that. Okay, we're going to use one of these cake toppers, right? We're going to use that as our humidity dome. Because you can go out and you can buy commercial humidity domes. I just bought a bunch and they were like $12 for little peat pots in the humidity dome. This is a commercial style and it goes over a plug tray. So you normally see them like that. But we're going to just use something that most of us have left over from the holidays. So we're using some of the trash for this. So I'm going to be using it like that. So I'm going to use that to hold in my humidity. And we're going to use some pony packs. So let me grab some of those. I had them here somewhere. All right. Now following in we're reusing stuff. These are last year's pony packs, so in a way they are reused. Let me make this one a little bit smaller. I don't need 3 dozen African violets. All right, so we're gonna do a dozen of these, or half dozen of these. All right, so I've got my little pony pack. So this is my reused pony pack. We're gonna fill that with some potting media. So I'll bring it down here so you can see again. Okay, there we go. All right, there is one filled pony pack. And let's go through and select some leaves. We're going to take ones off of this guy here. So this is our Survivor. This is our one that we've had many years. Might be close to actually 20. So yeah, it's a really old African violet. So I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of leaf cuttings here. I'm going to just take some healthy ones. I'm going to take some older ones. So there's one. There's an older one. There's 2. Oh, I didn't look at this one. Hey, this one is actually kind of unique. Because I've got one apical meristem there. So there's one bud there. There's one bud there. This one's actually split. Oh, and there's another one forming in there. So this one's actually branching. That's pretty cool. All right, so I've got 2. We'll do one more. We'll do one more cutting here. All right, there's 3 of those. We'll move that one off to the side. And then we'll get some of the ones from this pink one. We're gonna grab some older leaves. So we're gonna do kind of both. There's an older leaf. There's a younger leaf. And we'll grab one more younger leaf. All right. So there's that. So I think I've propagated most all of these African violets. So we're going to go ahead and stick these now. So as we've been doing, we're going to do some straight across ones. I'm going to stick those down here in the potting media. Put them off to the side. We're going to do some at a 45. I'm trying to get this. There we go. I want a nice clean cut. Okay, there's that. Well, there's a nice 45. We'll just go ahead and reuse that right there. And then we'll go straight across. Do a 45. You know what? Let's trade the places of these two. So this one can hang off this edge, and we'll do a straight across. All right, so there you go. There is another set of African violet leaves. Go ahead and water this. Bring this guy back in. This one back in. All right, there we go. I'm going to put this here, and then we're going to put our cover on it. So there we go. We are going to manage our humidity until we get that going. So we have 3 different methods that we are working on with African violets. So yeah, to again kind of reiterate, we do need to add moisture to these, so they are going to have some higher humidity for a little while until those roots get established and we start having a new little plantlet form at the end of that stem. So kind of a way that we can recycle some of our materials that we have just around our house. So you know, when you go to Costco and you buy that cake, if your significant other says, no, you can't have that cake, say, well, I need a new container to propagate some of my plants. So there you go. There's an excuse to buy that cake. This was a chocolate cake. I made sure to lick the whole container really, really well before I put the plants in it. But yeah, there is a way to get a humidity dome for propagating some of your plants in your home. So specifically in this case, African violets. But we can use, some other things with the same methods. So if you follow this channel for a little bit, we do a lot of petunia propagation here. And with those, I've got a lot of videos of those. We're going to do some of those coming up too, but we will probably be adding some petunias to our cake cover. But yeah, there's a way to reuse some of your household trash to do some propagating. And one of the other things you might have noticed or may not have noticed is we didn't use any rooting hormone. So we're going to just go and do this the natural way. So kind of the way nature intended. If a leaf got broken off and it hit the soil and it stayed damp enough, it will root and grow another plant. So that's another way to do that. But yeah, you don't always have to have the commercial stuff. You're going to see me use that here. I use commercial pots. These are containers that I have brought in, and I use commercial rooting hormone and commercial plug trays and all of that. But that is not something that you have to do, because for me right now, this is a hobby greenhouse. So if this is your first time seeing our greenhouse here, it's actually fairly small. Give you a little bit of a tour. There's one side to the other. But it's not that I've always been in a hobby greenhouse. I've been in the nursery industry my entire life. Right now, though, I don't have a large commercial greenhouse to work in. I was a horticulture teacher for quite a while, so I was teaching students all about plants, about shop work, about agriculture, and I'm just kind of in between schools right now. So I put a little hobby greenhouse in my backyard so I get a chance to play around with plants and do things that I really enjoy, even though I don't have a large commercial greenhouse to work in. Because this is pretty tiny. This is tiny to the ones I grew up in. The ones I grew up in, I think we had 12 or 13,000 square feet of greenhouses. So a big greenhouse, much, much bigger than this. But really, in reality, this is just a miniature version of a commercial greenhouse. We still have the metal hoops right there. We've got grow lighting, we've got heating, we've got ventilation, we've got insulated walls. We put in everything that you would normally get in a commercial greenhouse, just in a much, much smaller space. So there is more content that's coming. Earlier today, I actually tore out the radiant heater I was trying to design because I couldn't get it to work, because I'm not an engineer. No, actually, it's because I couldn't get the safety equipment I needed. I needed high pressure safety equipment, and all I could find was low pressure safety equipment as far as gas pressure. And so I couldn't get the flame I needed to make the radiant heater work safely. I could make it work with a straight high pressure system, but then it didn't have any safety check valves. So that went away, and this next week our new heater will arrive for the greenhouse, which is a ventless propane heater, which is going to heat our greenhouse really nicely. So it's 71 degrees in here right now. We're starting to chill down for the evening. I've actually got a little electric box heater right down here that's actually heating the whole greenhouse. So if you are liking what you're seeing and you're enjoying this, please subscribe and join the channel. This is all about plants and all about learning about plants. That's the majority of the channel, is all about plants and greenhouse work. So yeah, I'm going to do some things that you may not agree with, or you may say, well, it's not how my grandmother taught me. I'm just going to do it like a commercial grow house would do it. I'm going to do things a little bit different, especially like, yeah, I'm going to get African violet leaves wet. They have to have moisture. You're going to see me take cuttings when I shouldn't. You're going to see me trim plants back when you're like, but the plant's getting big. You know, I'm going to do a lot of stuff that you'd see in a commercial greenhouse. And yeah, these are cuttings we took this fall, and they are a nice big plant. We're going to let them grow just a little bit more, and we're going to take our next batch of cuttings so that we have plenty of plant material to plant around our home site here. But yeah, if you have any questions, you can always drop them down in the comments. These lives usually take about 24 hours before they kind of go back into the system and become viewable again. YouTube takes them down for processing for about 24 hours, and then they come back on the channel. I know my lives are not as often viewed. You know, they pretty much get viewed when I post them, and then that's it. And then they go away, and they're just kind of sitting there. But I figured this is a good opportunity for folks to ask questions. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I kind of seen a lot of people pop in and out, but I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Been about a half hour, so I thought I'd do a nice surprise live. But I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I hope you subscribe to the channel. Have a good Saturday. Ag Teacher Thoughts.